Good to have you with us on this Tuesday edition of Ed Schultz News and Commentary from the nation's capital. West Virginia is going to get the focus tonight. Although, let me make the case that it's not that big a deal. The Democrats have lost the last 4 presidential elections in West Virginia. Barack Obama proved 2 times that it's not all that much of a critical state. It would be nice to win it. The big problem for the Democrats is that what are you going to do with all those coal jobs? People transitioning out of that industry into what? And there's got to be a big plan to help those folks with jobs. The coal industry, of course, has lost some 10,000 jobs in the state of West Virginia in the last few years. So that's an issue. Hillary Clinton had no answers, and I'm not sure Bernie does either. The fact is that West Virginia doesn't matter, but Wall Street does. And Wall Street matters to the tune of $23 million. A third of Hillary Clinton's funding that has come out of Wall Street has gone to her. A third of the money that's come out of Wall Street has gone to Hillary Clinton. And you might wonder, well, where's Trump in all of this? We're going to investigate that tonight. Now, in a speech in Sacramento, Bernie Sanders reiterates that he is in this race for the long haul because of reforming Wall Street is one of the biggest things that's on his plate. He wants to break up the banks. Hillary Clinton doesn't want to do that. He wants to change the lending practices of the big banks. She hasn't talked about that too much. And if you ask Americans on the street what Dodd-Frank is, they don't know what the hell Dodd-Frank is. They know that the rich are getting richer and the big are getting bigger and the little guys get walked on, and the access to capital is extremely hard. And that's why Bernie's staying in this thing.
Let me tell everybody here and anybody who is watching or listening, we are going to fight for every vote until June 14th. And we are going to take the political revolution into the convention in Philadelphia.
So why would Wall Street give $23 million of fundraising efforts to Hillary Clinton? Because she can't be bought? Yeah, right. She's not going to do anything to Wall Street. Wall Street's going to keep cooking the way it's always been cooking. For more on that, America's lawyer, Ring of Fire radio host, Mike Papantonio. Mike, good to have you with us.
How are you?
How in the world can you get $23 million out of an organization and say, no, I'm not going to help you?
Well, when I hear those words, I mean, they're just so outrageous because we already, look, we have enough to know. We don't have to guess what is she going to do. We have her history that tells us when Wall Street gives her money, she does what Wall Street wants them to do, what wants her to do. Whether it's the banking, you may remember that she came out, had this big speech that she gave with Elizabeth Warren when Elizabeth Warren talked about the bankruptcy bill and how people were taken advantage of to the advantage of Wall Street. And then we heard, oh my God, surely she's going to be there to support a bill that ends all that. No, she does a flip-flop. She does the flip-flop after she receives more money from Goldman Sachs. There's a direct connection. You could go through a dozen stories like that with Hillary Clinton. And so anytime we do a story, Ed, when we talk about it's impossible to build the Chinese wall between Wall Street and Hillary Clinton's politics, we get so much criticism. It's as if she's some kind of special character that's going to be blind to that money flowing into not just her, Ed, but to Bill's pocket too. We saw that with the arms industry. The arms industry wanted to sell arms to countries that were on the no sell list. Okay, Hillary came out on behalf of McDonnell Douglas and several of the arms dealers. She comes out and she as Secretary of State, she ends that moratorium. The next thing we know, Bill is giving speeches to those same arms industry types, getting paid $600,000 per speech. So there's no guesswork here. Yeah. This isn't something we have to surmise.
All right, I'm going to say this right up front on these trade agreements. I don't believe Hillary at all on the TPP. I think she's saying what is politically necessary for her to win and to say goodbye to Bernie Sanders. And I also think that Hillary hasn't worked very hard on trying to kill this trade deal and to convince the president this is the wrong thing to do. And so I don't trust her on Wall Street because of the money. Bernie Sanders has run an unbelievable campaign. He hasn't taken one dime from Wall Street, so he's proven it can be done. He's going to win West Virginia tonight. He's not going to win it by much, but he's going to win it. He's going to do very well in Oregon and California. He's going to go to the convention, and you heard that soundbite a moment ago. Nothing's going to take him off his game. I don't care what the delegate count is. He's going to force these super delegates to go against the will of the people of their states, which is going to create some political problems for them. How can you come from a state where you're a super delegate and your state goes for Sanders, but yet you go for Clinton? He's going to purify this system once and for all. There's nothing pure about taking $23 million and all these speaking fees and not releasing your transcripts. And just because she's ahead in delegates, we're supposed to forget that story. The mainstream media has fallen flat on its face, and they're all genuflecting to the Clintons. And I mean, Pap, look at these numbers. Most recent Wall Street Journal NBC poll, nearly half of the respondents, 47%, say they're scared about Trump. They have the same feelings about Clinton. More than a third of the voters, 35%, reported that they'd be scared if Clinton were to win the nomination, while 29% would be hopeful. 29%, I mean, that's a horrible number. Those are George Bush popularity numbers. And that's what the Democrat, that's where we are? What about that?
Well, we're seeing it today. Ohio, Trump's ahead. Who would have thought that when we started this? The media was saying it's impossible, it'll never happen. Florida, it's the statistical dead heat. Pennsylvania, these are swing states we're talking about, Ed. These are swing states. We used to be able to even count North Carolina as a swing state. It's a Trump state now.
And look at these numbers. Clinton leads Trump by 5 points nationally. Bernie Sanders by 13. Bernie Sanders leads him by 13. I mean, 53-40. I mean, and this is an NBC Wall Street Journal poll, which has been pretty rough on Bernie, I mean, if you track it. And Bernie is the guy who has knocked down all of these poll numbers in all of these states where he was, look how far behind he was in Michigan and in Minnesota and Wisconsin. I mean, he was left for dead and he comes back and wins. So, I mean, this is a poll that looks good. But we're so hung up on these delegates, we're so hung up on these numbers, and it's almost like the Democrats are afraid to go to the convention and have Bernie challenge their loyalty against their constituents. Your thoughts? Right
now, if you look at it, who is showing as a constituent, as a party, who's showing more guts? Well, it's the Republicans. Now, granted, it's crazy, but the rank and file Republicans don't want an establishment Republican Party anymore. That's what Trump is all about. On the Democrat side, though, they're so terrified to do anything, move away from anything that's not establishment Democrat. If they did, they could win this election. If they don't, I'm telling you, Ed, Hillary Clinton will be beat by Donald Trump. As impossible as that sounds, those words coming out of my mouth, right now, if you look at the trend, if you look at what's happening, it'll happen.
Well, Wall Street and Trump, there's no financial connection. He's taken very little, if any, money from them. His popularity is with these guys that roll up their sleeves and going to hang on to their guns. And he's even doing well, Mike, with evangelicals. I mean, you know, it is amazing. It's just a bunch of people who are pissed off at America, but just a sliver of the country has voted.
Look at his talking points on TPP. Look at what he's doing. He's capturing the Bernie Sanders talking points because he knows Hillary Clinton can't do that. Yeah. He's talking about things like minimum wage. He's talking about things like getting Wall Street under control. He's talking about Iraq was a terrible mistake by the Democrats, terrible mistake by the Republicans. He calls them out. Nobody is doing that on the Democratic side except Bernie. Right. Hillary Clinton certainly is not.
You use the word crazy. Let's go to the crazy department. Anytime you have Ted Cruz and Glenn Beck talking to one another, there's craziness. Here it is.
Well, I am not holding my breath. My assumption is that will not happen. But listen, let's be very clear. If there is a path to victory, we launched this campaign intending to win. The reason we suspended the race last week is with Indiana's loss, I didn't see a viable path to victory. If that changes, we will certainly respond accordingly.
I mean, all that stump work that Glenn Beck did for Ted Cruz didn't do shit. I mean, that's where we are, folks. Glenn Beck ain't got any pull. I mean, you don't go up on stage for somebody unless you know the hell they're going to win.
Everything around Glenn Beck's burning down. Blaze, his network is burning down. His candidate is burning down. The guy's going to be comatose.
I mean, let's talk about that. Pap, let's talk about that. Mike Papantonio, Ring of Fire radio host America's lawyer. How can a broadcaster go backwards in an election year? I don't know. I mean, this is Glenn Beck. He's firing people left and right. He's a big business failure. I thought his eyesight was bad. He was going to lose his eyesight. Remember that story a few years ago? He makes up so much crap to throw out there to get hits on the web, and he thinks that's a business. Then he stands up there with Ted Cruz. He doesn't do squat. People think he's a joke. And I have to tell you, I've seen a couple of videos that I just can't get over. It's just so damn funny. He's talking about how he is going to have to explain to his children that he will not allow what is happening in America. I mean, this guy, there's a boatload of psychiatrists that couldn't help this guy.
And unfortunately for him, the business plan doesn't work anymore, Ed. That's the unfortunate thing for him. His business plan
because he's a fraud.
He's a fraud. He is a fraud. People ultimately see the fraud, and that's what's happening. His blaming this on the employees, that's why he's having to fire. He's going out of business. He right now sees every aspect of the Glenn Beck persona crumbling before him. The last thing to crumble was his Ted Cruz candidacy.
Yeah, right. I mean, he and Ted Cruz, they should go stand in the corner with a dunce hat on. I mean, and Beck thinks he's so smart. He's just so smart. What was the other story that I thought was just hilarious about that loser? His two sidekicks love to pick on me, and I love that. They think I blame everything on fishing. It just the guy. Everything the guy touches, it just falls apart.
The problem, with both Ted and with Beck, the problem with Ted, when he jumped in, when you had him jump in, and you had Glenn Beck say, "This is the guy." Remember, he almost did a story every hour about Ted Cruz. And
he did.
Ted Cruz
Did. Because,
he bet the farm on Ted Cruz, and he lost.
Yeah, he did lose. Okay, weren't the Mormons funding him?
Yes, that's where he got his money initially. They stayed with him for a matter of years. I don't know that. Matter of fact, we're looking for a story on that, finding whether that's ended. They thought it could be self-sustaining.
Yeah,
it was supposed to be self-sustaining 3 years ago. Of course, it never got there.
So it's all bad that my radio show for 10 years, my radio show has had union advertisers. And my radio show was originally started by liberal activists who wanted to see a radio show make a business model, which we did, and we were successful for 9 of those 11 years. And it's really okay if the Mormon Church or whoever the hell these cult figures are that support.
Yeah, it wasn't just the Mormon Church.
Yeah.
You hit it on the head. It was the fringe of the fringe.
Yeah.
The money was coming from every spooky fringe entity in America.
Yeah.
And so now they're apparently leaving him now. He'll be bankrupt in just a short matter of time.
Yeah. Well, as crazy as it might get out there, I promise you that I'm not going to put Cheetos all over my face the way he. Anyway, all right. So, I mean, it's just a stupid question to ask if Cruz is going to get back into this thing. Now, Cruz complains. Now, I want to go down this road. I think there's room for the fairness doctrine when it comes to politics. Okay? And I think equal time is something that's very important. And I don't think that the guy with the most money should get the biggest voice. I don't believe that, not in politics. I've never believed that. And that's what Citizens United is all about. But listen to Cruz whine about all the attention that Donald Trump has gotten.
Trump has received now over $3 billion in free airtime. But strikingly, the last 30 days, he had $500 billion in free airtime, 90% of which was positive. To put that in perspective, in the entire 13 months of the campaign, the aggregate coverage of my campaign was about $500 billion worth.
Now, I was watching Bill O'Reilly the other night, Pap, and O'Reilly was saying that every time Trump gets on TV, he makes news. And that's the problem. It's only news if you have substantive statements about where you want to take the country, not if you're just ripping into somebody. And whereas Citizens United's an issue, I think the media coverage of these campaigns is also an issue. Your thoughts?
Well, look, both sides. Ronald Reagan he did away with the fairness doctrine. Then Bill Clinton, let's not forget, engineered all the problems we have because of his telecommunications bill. The reason you only have 5 corporations controlling the media is because of Bill Clinton, not Ronald Reagan. Even with the fairness doctrine, Ed, there was a time when before the telecommunications bill, you would have them competing. That you had at one point you had 55 different organizations controlling the media. Now you have 4 or 5, depending on who you talk to. So all of a sudden you have no diversity. And for Bill Clinton to be complaining and Hillary to be complaining about, and they're complaining too about all the time that Donald Trump got. Well, thank you, Telecommunications Act, because it's all corporate driven. All they care about, how many eyes are they getting? He can talk about his crazy positions on the economy. We're going to print more money. I don't care if we go bankrupt. We're going to renegotiate debt. He can talk about foreign policy. No matter how crazy it is, they love that. Those 5 corporate owners love that because it puts eyes on their television and they're able to sell cars and soap. That's what it's about, but it's as much about the Telecommunications Act as it is the fairness doctrine that Ronald Reagan did away with.
Mike Papantonio, Ring of Fire radio host. How's the Sanders thing going to end? Your prediction here in the middle of May, Mike.
Well, first of all, there's no way Hillary is going to tap Sanders for vice president.
No.
She doesn't have enough sense to understand. It's almost leadership within that very bubble, that elite bubble in Washington D.C. does not understand that progressives are not going to show up for her. It's the John Kerry. It's the John Kerry problem. It's the Carter problem. It is the Dukakis problem. Who is going to show up unless they're motivated to do that? Progressives are the world's worst about not showing up unless they feel like they've been compelled to for some very important reason. Bernie was that very important reason, not Hillary. And I don't understand why it is that the Democrats continue walking down this path, believing that Hillary somehow is going to just close up the ranks around progressives. Progressives are still mad about TPP. They're still mad about issues dealing with Social Security. They're still mad about her as a war hawk. They're mad about her relationship with Wall Street. They don't think they think she talks about climate change, does nothing about it. All of these progressive issues aren't something you change overnight. That was the problem John Kerry had. It was the problem that Dukakis had. And so here we are right now. It's almost as if the Democrats can't learn from their mistakes because that elite bubble that drives this damn party will never allow change. And we're going to see, I'm telling you, I really honestly believe, every day I'm more convinced Trump is going to beat Hillary Clinton.
Mike Papantonio with us here on Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Thanks, Mike. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Ed.
Ring of Fire radio host and America's lawyer Mike Papantonio, Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, Bio Green Clean, the iSave team bring you this production. You can get it at WeGotEd.com and ringofireradio.com. We're right back. Hey, folks, you've heard me talk about Bio Green Clean. I'm going to show you right now on my airplane just how tough this is. I want you to keep in mind, chemical-free, 100% plant-derived, biodegradable. It is the safest cleaner that you can get, and it's the most effective. Go to our website, WeGotEd.com, or go to biogreenclean.com. www.biogreenclean and order today. It's time to continue our conversation about mechanical insulation. Mechanical insulation is for the piping systems in our nation's commercial and industrial facilities. Facility owners are burning up billions of dollars through the lack of mechanical insulation on these piping systems. Call the iSave team. Insulation saves America valuable energy, and this team of energy conservation specialists is shovel-ready to save you money. Visit iSaveTeam.org to have a specialist give your plant an energy audit.
We perpetuate a culture of crime all the way from Wall Street right down to the main street in our hometowns. It's worse than it has been since FDR took control of the problem and said we can't count on industry taking care of the American labor. They probably have already engaged into some type of criminal cover-up, and the law prohibits the government from even doing anything about it.
Catch America's lawyer Mike Papantonio on YouTube at youtube.com/GoLeftTV.
Well, it's going to be a big meeting tomorrow in Capitol Hill between Paul Ryan, the Speaker of the House, and Donald Trump, the presumptive nominee of the Republican Party. Now, on previous commentaries, I told you that there is a heart and soul fight to the finish for this country. That's right. And we're having this fight within the Democratic Party, and now the Republicans are having their fight. They've got an identity crisis because they haven't stood for anything or made any progress for America. They've blocked everything for the last 7 years. So what do they want to do? They want to privatize everything they can get their hands on, from the Postal Service to Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. They want to get rid of Obamacare. There are some things that Trump is saying that will work. He'll never privatize Social Security, at least that's what he says. His health care plan has no detail, so he's really just like them. But the core issue here is the Supreme Court. And I would be really genuinely surprised and beyond if Paul Ryan doesn't ask him tomorrow, who would you like to put on the Supreme Court? Can you give us some names? And how do you feel about shrinking government? How do you feel about entitlements? Do you even know what chain CPI is? Where do you want to go with Wall Street? Will you defend Citizens United? I mean, there's going to be a hardcore philosophical discussion tomorrow on Capitol Hill, and the Republicans are going to have to identify, number one, who they are and what they want, and where Ryan wants to take the House and the leadership. And is Donald Trump going to fit? And are they willing to mold? And are they willing to say, no, we have to take the country this way, and we're going to disregard these millions of people that have voted for Trump? All of these people have voted for Trump because they hate the Paul Ryans of the world. Paul Ryan lost in a national election. And Trump is going to go into that meeting tomorrow and say, now, the last time I checked, Obama kicked your ass. You and Romney didn't get it done. And I've got millions of people that say I should be president, and you're telling me that I've got to fall in line with what you people want to do? I don't think so. And so I think that Trump is going to go into that meeting in a very good negotiating position to say, you know, Paul, why don't you come think the way I do, and maybe we'll get some things done, because what you guys have done for the last 7 years hasn't motivated anybody. I mean, what Glenn Beck did with the Ted Cruzes of the world, with the Tea Partiers back in 2010, that world is light years gone. The American people want to see some get along. The Republicans have got to lead the way in that regard. Now, for the Democrats have got to just be Democrats. The Democrats have got to fight for the little guy. You fight for the little guy, you'll kick Trump's ass. But if you go down this corporate road of thinking, well, we don't want to do anything on Wall Street, and we're not really sure about the trade agreements, and parking money offshore, not paying your fair share of taxes, we're probably going to let that go. No, that's not going to happen either. So we have these two parties right now that are trying to find out who they are and where they're going to go. I think Trump has got the upper hand with the Republicans right now, and I think that Bernie Sanders is carrying cards that Hillary Clinton can't read right now, and it makes them nervous, and that's why all these surrogates are out on the talking head saying, well, you know, Bernie's not going to win. Well, you know, Bernie's not going to win. Bernie's going to change the Democrats, or these people are going to turn on Hillary. That's the Russian roulette that they're playing. Ed Schultz News and Commentary, brought to you by Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen, Clean the Eye Safe team. We're back tomorrow.